Welcome, Wargamers. Doug here from 2+ Tough, and something folks often assume is that I am involved in just about every aspect of Games Workshop's, kind of sphere of companies like that, and people have assumed that I have bought Forgeworld stuff before, and I never actually have. This is because a lot of Forgeworld stuff is related to 40k and Horus Heresy gaming, neither of which I do very much of. And for the factions that I've owned with Age of Sigmar, there hasn't been a lot that's really gripped me until I started playing Stormcast. I do follow a lot of people over on Instagram and Twitter and that kind of stuff, and I don't see people using the actual Forgeworld Stormcast heads very often. In fact, I don't think I've ever actually seen anyone get them, and so I actually grabbed 2 sets of them, and I'm going to go ahead and do a quick review of them in this video. I'm going to swap over to the downward cam and we'll check them out. We are at the downward cam, and so I did grab 2 sets of the male heads. The reason I didn't grab a female set is because what I'm doing right now, if you have been following the other videos I put out, is I'm really going hard and heavy into a Vanguard chamber. And the thing is that the only female sculpt within the Vanguard chamber, as it is the the Neve Black Talon Knight Zephyros kit, and she already comes with, I think, a pretty cool looking unhelmeted head. You don't have to play her as Neve, but the head itself looks great, the hair looks very dynamic. So I think it was very interesting. But yeah, so for these guys, what I'm going to be doing is putting these heads on a unit of Hunters and Vanguard Raptors, or not Raptors, what are they called? Let's see. Long Strikes, there we go. Raptors with long strike crossbows. So making these guys very dynamic. If you have followed the channel for a long time, maybe a year or so, you'll know that one of the things, my hobby, things I've always wanted to do is a Vanguard chamber with the unhelmeted heads. Well, I guess since these things came out, well, it was before these things came out because I was looking at Blood Angel heads, and just doing a really extreme mobility style Stormcast army. So with those off to the side, we're gonna put the heads on them in just a second to see how well they fit. But let's take a look at these. So when you actually get the heads themselves, they come on 2 of these big old 5 bricks. If you've never bought a Forgeworld model before, again, this is my first Forgeworld order. I've seen they use these big old hunkin' things of resin to attach all their parts to. Some of them are quite large, like people have used them to make barriers and stuff like that for the tank models that come in. But there is a really nice, I don't know if you can see it, there's a little gap between the actual head itself and the stem that kind of holds it to that brick thing. So they're going to be very easy to pop off. Now, I don't work with resin a ton. I know plastic glue doesn't work for it. So we'll pop one off, we'll clean it up, and we'll throw it on a model and see how it looks. Okay, and we're back. And actually, I took 2 heads off of this one sprue. I got the one, and I'll hold it up here, and I'll also throw some pictures up of this thing in a light box of the kind of long mane of hair coming out the back. Now, one thing I do want to say is only one of the sculpts in this set has this long hair. And that actually is super important because of the way the hair flows for anyone who's interested in buying this kit. And I'll grab a headless one here. If you look on the back here, where they have this the part of the armor that comes up over the back of the neck, and I'll try to get a good angle there, can actually get in the way of that. So for that guy to make it sit in there right, I had to trim that in with a hobby knife just a smidge to get it. You don't want to take off very, very much, but you can always go take off more, trim it just a little bit at a time, and this way the hair will nestle over it. You can't, obviously you probably can't see super well, but what I did was trim it down a little bit there, and so the hair actually comes, it swoops over that shoulder thing, so you can't see that a part of it's missing. So there was a little work required for that specific head, but the rest of them, no one has anything. I guess this guy might. One of these guys here has some, like a ponytail in the back, whatever, some braids coming at the back. That might be an issue, but it seems much more tight than the big flowing mane on this guy. The other one I did was just a pretty straight-laced guy with a cool looking scar. I threw him as my Raptor leader, or Raptor Prime, whatever they call him, and he is looking pretty dope. So let me go ahead and do the rest of these, and I'll go ahead and give you a consensus here at the end. So we just finished doing all, 10 hunters and 3 raptors. 2 of the hunters here, they actually come with an unhelmeted head within the box, so I just went ahead and used those because I wanted to. And they look great. They have the same kind of dynamic hair flowy thing that first guy I talked about has going on, so it was really great. The whole unit, I'll throw some pictures up here, it looks fantastic. The heads fit in no problem. The only one that gave me a little bit of issue, and you might have seen it there as I kind of took him out and switched bodies, is the second guy with his hair swooshing out, and he has sort of like braids that come out the back end, and that gets to be a problem not because of the collar that I talked about with the first guy, but the shoulder pads on this specific set of Vanguard guys. They come up so high that braid, which is so much closer to the head than the long flowing hair one, actually makes it hard to like pose his head left or right. He kind of has to be facing center for it to fit. And so I had to find a model that, you know, being a center-facing head would look like, rather than like this guy who has his pistol out to the side. So all in all, I'm super happy. A few things that I do want to just point out here, if you've never messed with Forgeworld resin. This is my first order from Forgeworld, but I've played around with resin models before. This stuff, the stuff they're actually made out of, one, you can't use plastic glue on it. You'll just be frustrated. Secondly, it is much softer than plastics. So if you go straight from building these guys to applying the head, you can very easily cut too deep and like break one of these things. As with all Forgeworld resin stuff, it's very, very soft. It's just a different material, and it makes it really cool for conversions and little bits and stuff like that. But just be careful with that. If you noticed, as I said before, like each head has a nice little gap where you can cleanly snap it off. If you watch the video, I basically just, if you twist it on end, making sure not to put too much pressure on like the hair or something like that, these things twist right off very, very easily. Do note that sometimes there is a line, if you will, of material that goes from the peg to the chin, where like beards and goatees are sculpted. You're going to want to snap that, cut it off with a knife before you try removing the head. Otherwise you can pull some of the detail out of the chin. You can kind of have a big chip right there in the front and center of his face, which would be really, really terrible for something that costs so much. So as far as their value, it super depends on you. What I can say is that, you know, having ordered Forgeworld, I now know the difference between actual Forgeworld and Forgery World, the stuff that people, you know, recast and that kind of thing. I like the resin quite a bit. The sculpts are terrific. One of the things, and I'm going to try to get some close-up pictures to show, is that the cheekbone on all of these, no matter what, because there's a lot of different sculpts. If you haven't, check it out, I'll throw pictures up here. There's a lot of different sculpts, but for every single one of them, the cheekbones are very well defined. And so that's like actually a huge deal, because if you look at models like the Knight Incanter that comes in Soul Wars, her cheeks are very rounded. Like it's almost hard to pick out the correct, like where you should layer stuff to build up color. Whereas if they're nice and sharp, right, and it goes straight from the cheek, sharp edge, into like the eye socket, it's very easy to highlight. Makes it very clear where color should go and easy to pop. And also, frankly, easier to paint eyes, because now you have a clear ledge of like, eye stops here. I found that to be really, really nice. The hair looks great. There's quite a few. Let me see. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 5 bald heads, 5 with hair, a bunch of scarring. Yeah, no, they just look fantastic. So go ahead and follow me on Instagram if you want to see this army develop. Not everything's going to be Forgeworld heads, just because I want some variety. I'm going to be looking at other stuff, other armies, Space Wolf heads, stuff like that. And what I did find was off camera, I tried putting one of these heads on a Palador. And if you don't know, the Paladors are riding the Griff Chargers, and they actually don't work too well. And the reason, you could do some green stuff finagling for sure. And the reason is that because the Paladors are leaning forward, that little peg where the head kind of sits into the shoulders actually goes horizontal rather than vertical. The head actually like plops horizontally into the body because they're leaning so far forward, and that way it doesn't look like they're staring at the ground. Their heads are cocked upward and the peg goes inward. So they don't quite work. You'd have to do a little bit of finagling. You have to trim off the neck and then build a green stuff mount for it within the torso. Not a ton of work, it's very easy to do, but I just want to give a heads up if anyone is like me and they want to do a Vanguard force with unhelmeted heads. So friends, that'll do it for me. I just got these in the mail and I'm super excited, so I wanted to share them with you. If you have thoughts on other heads that would really work well with these, let me know, because I'm going to be on the hunt, right? I know Blood Angels have some helmetless heads for Space Marines that are in the same scale, as well as Space Wolves, and I can't think of anything else. So if you think of something, let me know in the comments down below, and I'd love to check it out. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, the link down below, to see the progress of the Vanguard Chamber. And I'll catch you next time. Happy wargaming.